Symposium, and we want to welcome all of you. My name is Bob Keller. Not working, is it? Not good enough. You know, these things happen now and then.
What's up, man? I'm good. How about you? Yeah, man. Oh, no, he's not. He needs it louder. Yeah, louder.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Just takes the right touch, right? Maybe I better begin again. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to the Teens Drug Talk Symposium. And it's good to have such a great person. It's good to set an important topic here in my community. My name is Bob Keller, and I have the privilege of being the mayor this year. And I mean that very sincerely when I say what an honor and a privilege it is to be the mayor of the city. And I also want to say in advance, I thank city staff because they are such great people. You see, they have prepared some notes so I don't overlook one thing in my sharing information with you tonight. We thank each and every one of you for being here tonight as we continue to address drug use and drug prevention with other teens. And I also want to thank our speakers tonight as they will be sharing very personal stories with you. Teens Talk Drugs is the sixth symposium in our Heroin Field series, and we are committed to fighting drug abuse in our city, especially with our teens. As a city, we have continued to engage and educate parents, teens, and residents about the dangers of substance abuse. We're able to do this with the help of our community partners as we continue to collaborate and provide educational awareness to all of our residents. Our program first began with heroin and then continued with prescription pills. Last year, we focused on the dangers of marijuana use. Tonight, we will hear from three youths who will share their truthful and raw stories about drug use. Speakers will tell you about their experiences with drugs and how drugs not only affected their lives, but also the lives of those around them. We hope the information you hear tonight will help you make smarter choices and also encourage you to help those around you with the many needs that they have. Events like this symposium are so important because they help educate parents on how to recognize drug abuse, how to prevent it, and how to understand the risk facing their children. I'm going to make a little insert right here in the comments from City Hall that they provided me, which I appreciate. And I say this with great pride, and I hope it doesn't come across in any way inappropriately, but I am so very proud, ladies and gentlemen, to be a retired Los Angeles police officer. I went in the department in 1968. I'm trying to find somebody out there that might have been alive. But I tell you, and the point of it, as I tell you a little story, it's not a big story. And I will tell you over the years, I certainly had my encounters with people under the influence of drugs and having done so many criminal behaviors, and the stories go on and on and on. But I recall I was working PM watch over off of Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon area. It's called 158085 was the designation of my car. And working the PM watch, I typically, it was a little restaurant there, very similar to a Coco's or something of that nature on Ventura Boulevard. And I like to go in there, and it was kind of an inexpensive dinner, if you will. And there was a little girl out there. I say a little girl, she was probably 17, about that age. Just prettier in the picture, a little blonde girl. And ironically, she was working for a union, and she picketed that place every night. And she was kind of walking back and forth with her picket. She probably paid her $3 an hour, I don't know. But I would always, and I asked for her name one time, and way too many years for me to recall, but I would always say, how you doing? And by the way, excuse me, I'm going in. And that went on for 6 months or so. And she always had a smile on her face. She was a very nice little young lady. So there I am. I get a radio call one night. I was working by myself. It was an L car. That would be the one-man car. Excuse me, one-person car. I don't want to get in trouble. And I went to this home not terribly far away off of Ventura Boulevard, and it was this this gentleman and his wife that received me at the door, and we went inside, and they proceeded to describe to me how they were so concerned and that they had found drugs in their daughter's room. And they said, officer, we called the LAPD to seek your advice, your insight. What do we do? And I remember that so vividly, and we talked on a little bit. And my heart was kind of pouring out to him, because the truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, I did not have a crystal ball. I don't have an exact answer for you. But then as we continued to visit, I realized they were talking about their daughter, who was that young lady that walked back and forth in front of that restaurant that I had been going back and forth, going into for so many months. And it kind of hit me a little bit. It broke my heart, because I have been enjoying that young lady's smile, and have learned that mom and dad have this issue with that little girl. And I tell you, so when we talk about things of this kind, don't think they don't hit home. The ramifications of drugs in families, we read about it in the newspaper. Our families experience the trials, tribulations, the heartache. It's an endless pattern of difficulty. So I'll go back to my notes, but I just wanted to share that. As a young police officer myself, I will tell you, I have never forgotten talking to those parents. And they were not the only parents I had an occasion to talk to. But I will tell you, it hit home with me as to what this mom and dad were going through, and even more importantly, what is going to be the future of this young lady if she does not get herself on a proper road to success. One of the most effective ways to combat drug abuse is to keep yourself educated, which is what you are all doing here tonight. Spread the word. Talk to your neighbors, your peers, your friends, fellow parents. Let's help our young people. Talk to them, help them understand, be supportive, and encourage them to make good choices. And I want to put a lot of emphasis on that, folks. This issue does not call for push them away. It calls for all of us, as loving family members and friends, to do all we can to work together to help those that need our help. And I mean that emphatically. We never turn our back on our fellow family members, our fellow friends. They're going through times of difficulty, and it is incumbent upon all of us, do whatever we can to be a positive factor, a supportive factor. And I'm going to add a little something to this. There are so many things that we do as society to try to address this terrible evil that exists in our society. I don't know which button necessarily to push. So therefore, I come at you and I tell you, push every button that's out there that you can push. Maybe you will hit the right one, and that will be the answer to the problem, and that life will get turned around. And I mean that emphatically. Don't know which one it is, so therefore we hit them all. I would like to introduce Kathy Hunter. Kathy is the Director of Student Services for the William S. Hart Union School District and is deeply invested in our youth education and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming.
Thank you, Mayor Keller. Appreciate the introduction. Please, if you're in the back and you can't understand me on this mic, would you raise your hands? Excellent. Okay. I would like to talk to you tonight very briefly about a couple of things. First of all, being some statistics. According to the National Institution on Drug Abuse, as of June 2016, we actually have some good news. The trends of drug use among our youth are actually declining for one of the first times ever in history. So I think that means some of the things we're doing are working. So right now, the number one drug that's abused by our youth is alcohol. Number 2 is marijuana. Number 3 are amphetamines. And the other 2 things that are on the rise are vaping and edibles. And in the school system, the edibles are one of the things that we've had the most difficulty with because people consume a brownie without realizing the quantity of drugs that are in that brownie, and we've had a number of students that we've had to transport to Henry Mayo because they've actually overdosed. So we're looking heavily into that and how to make sure that our youth are aware of what they're ingesting, and particularly if they're receiving something from a friend and not knowing what it is. Now, when we get to the part of looking at prevention, obviously it's been on everybody's minds for a long time. We went through the Just Say No program, we went through DARE, we went through STAR, we went through program after program, and now we have a lot of new programs. We've got Defiant, we have Cadre, we have an Action Academy Sober School here, we have a TIDE program. So we are doing a number of things as a school district to address the issues. But what I'd like to ask all of you tonight is to think about this in a different way. If I were standing here right now with a lovely brown bag that had In and Out written on it, and there was a lovely cheeseburger, animal style, French fries that you could smell from your seat, and a chocolate shake, raise your hand if I offered to give that to you, whether or not you would take it. How many of you would take that In and Out bag and be happy to have that cheeseburger, fries, and shake? Okay, well, I didn't bring one with me, so. Now let me ask you question number 2. If you raised your hand and said, yep, we'd like to have that, how many of you also know that eating fast food and sweets leads to obesity, leads to diabetes, leads to kind of sluggishness oftentimes in your behavior, and all kinds of other health risks? Raise your hand if you know that that leads to health risks, okay? But yet, with all that knowledge in your head, you still chose to have the fast food, and you still chose to have the chocolate or whatever I gave you in the way of sweets or dessert. So what I want you to do is transfer that knowledge and think about how that affects your teenager. They're in exactly the same place, right? They know, we've all told them drugs are bad for you. This is the reasons why it's bad for you. Yet, just like us as adults, oftentimes having that knowledge does not change our behavior. So we have to look at the people who didn't raise their hand, who don't want the In and Out, and find out why don't they want it then? And how do we use that information to influence our teens when it comes to affecting their decisions about choosing to use drugs or alcohol? Because it's the same thing when they're at a party and somebody's standing there holding a joint, holding a glass of beer, asking them if they want one. They do what we do when we supposedly just started a diet. We say, ooh, I'll just do it tonight, tomorrow I won't do it anymore, this will be a new beginning, 1. 2, we say, oh, it's just a party, so it doesn't really count. It's not my normal life. I'm not doing it at my house. All the same things that we hear our kids talk about. So what I would propose to all of you is that the technique right now that we should be looking at possibly is to actually do prevention through persuasion. Persuasion meaning we need to find the things that our kids want to do that are incompatible with doing drugs and alcohol. So if I'm a marathon runner, I'm probably not going to eat that In and Out burger because I'm training for something. I have a goal, I have a direction in my life, and that direction is going to outweigh the temptation to have that junk food right now. We need our kids to have goals and directions in their lives so that they, in their own decision-making process, can determine that, hey, this isn't part of what I want. This isn't helping me get to the point that I want to get to in my life. And then as parents, community members, schools, providing the tools to help them deal with the situations when they arise. So some of the things that we can do as parents, obviously spending more time together is always huge, because how else are you going to know what your kids are interested in, what their skills are, their strengths, and how to help them develop goals and a direction in their life. Another area of interest would be engaging in extracurricular activities that are also incompatible with using drugs and alcohol. Just being aware, being in your kids' room, popping in when they're at a party, just knowing who your kids' friends are and what they're doing. Providing easy outs for your kids. So give them some ways to get out of a situation that they're uncomfortable with. And then help them with setting goals and actually practice decision-making behavior. I think we often think that people just magically learn how to make decisions without any kind of training in it. But if you as the parent and the role model are not training them, they're learning it from somebody else in some other way. So you want to be that role model. And also as parents, We want to be the people in our household that are actually setting an example. So if you don't want your kids doing drugs and alcohol, it's not saying you can't have a glass of wine with dinner, but you probably don't want to be having big parties where everybody's drunk at your house, and that's what you're basically exhibiting to your kids, is this is the way that we live. This is our value system. So those are some of the things that I just wanted to share with you very, very briefly, because I'm very excited to hear our special guests tonight as far as our teens that are here to talk to you. But prior to hearing from them, I also have the privilege of bringing up the founder and executive director of Action Family Counseling, Parent and Teen Support, and the executive director of the Behavioral Health Unit at Henry Mayo Newhall Memorial Hospital, your friend, we all know him and love him, Carrie Quasher.
There'll be no in and out tonight, Kathy. Before we start, you all have survey cards on your little packets. So after the panel speak, please write down your questions. The city will pick them up to save time, and we'll be able to get your questions answered. You also have survey deals where you can write down what you want to hear in the future stuff for symposiums and workshops and all that stuff. Before we start, though, I want to spend a minute. I want everybody to bow their heads for a second. And let's be real quiet. And we're doing that for the 6 people that's going to die during this symposium from drug addiction. I see people going, wow. Every 19 minutes in this country, somebody dies from an accidental drug overdose. Accidental. More than gun violence, more than car crashes. Imagine if every 19 minutes somebody was shot to death in our streets, what we'd be doing. We'd be screaming, right? I'm screaming right now. We have to do something. We can't be burying people every 19 minutes. These are our kids. And they're dying. And for parents, the best thing you can do is educate yourself. You know what? I was doing a news piece, and they were asking, why are there so many people using drugs at such early age? The answer is really pretty simple, isn't it? Does anybody know the answer? Why? Because they don't know any better. That's actually pretty close. It really is. But I want you all to think this through for a second. I'm going to bounce it. How much time do you think the average parent spends with a 12-year-old kid to an 18-year-old kid a day? An hour? 5 minutes? 2 to 10 minutes. And here's what happens. And everybody's going, yes. Here's what happens. How was your day? It was good. How was school? It was okay. Do you have any homework? I done it. Are you hungry? I ate. True. What do you think? The kids are going, yes. What do you think the last thing your child does before they go to sleep? Probably you too. Check their social media. So they go in their room. They say goodnight to their friends that they've been with all day. They wake up in the morning. First thing they do is what? Check the social media before they even go to the restroom. So now they go to sleep with their friends. They wake up with their friends. Yes? They go to school. Who are they with? They come home. In most homes, if mom and dad are even living together, they're both at work. So who's very untrue? Everybody. If they're not in person, they're on social media. So they're with their friends 16 hours a day. You come home and they've got that 2-minute conversation. How was your day? How was school? And they're right back with their friends again. You want to know why peer pressure is so bad? You want to know why kids are using drugs at a younger age? Isn't it pretty simple? You want to know why kids are having sex at a younger age? Isn't it pretty simple? You want to know why they're getting pregnant at a younger age? Isn't it pretty simple? It really is. And then I want to do this, and then I want them to speak. There's 3 categories of kids. I want you all to figure this out. Number 1 category, and this is the smallest, no matter what kind of a child you have, they're high-risk kids. They're going to use drugs, act crazy, fight, drive fast, and do whatever they want. Some of you have those, not many. And those kind of kids, we really got to stay on, right? It takes a lot of energy. The next group of kids is still a little larger, are what you call level-headed kids. They know what they want to do. They know where they want to go. They're making good choices, and they're going to get there. Right? What's the next category? What does the middle mean? They're called the fence-sitters. All those corny sayings that you have, families that eat together, families that pray together, families that play together, those kids do good. Why? Because they stay together. And also, because when those children are getting ready to do something, they feel guilty. They don't want to let down mom and dad. The problem is, if I was to do an assembly in one of your schools up here 20 years ago, and I did, and I said, what's the most important thing in your world? Almost every kid would say, my family. Today, if I was to do the same thing in the same class with the same kids, and I ask the same question, guess what the answer is going to be? My friends. Figure that out, parents. You want to know why kids are using drugs at an early age? Nothing wrong with social media if you're spending time with your kids. I was at dinner the other night. I was at Olive Gardens. And as I walked from my table to the bathroom, the moms were checking their Facebook. The kids were texting. Everyone together weren't together. So family time needs to be family time. Please take that home with you. And what's the gateway drug, by the way? Marijuana? Alcohol? Cigarettes? I got news for you that most addicts, first thing they do is smoke a cigarette. So I'm going to do this really fast. Contracts. When we're young, we have contracts. When I grow up, here's things I'll never do. Remember those? I'll never use drugs. I won't smoke cigarettes. They cause cancer. There's only the real gateway drug is a cigarette. Now, why in the world would somebody smoke a cigarette when it says this on most packs? The Surgeon General has determined. What does that mean? That smoking causes what does that mean? Lung cancer, emphysema, and it says other stuff. It says it on the box. And just to take it a little step further, my mother, God bless her, died about 5 years ago. She had cancer. And I went to the doctor with her, and she looked at this doctor, and she said, how did I get this? The doctor says, Esther, it says it on the box. Wow. So for the people that are smoking. So the kid goes, there's only two reasons a child would smoke a cigarette, right? Go get you high. It's either a learned behavior from home, this is from the parents, mom or dad, brother or sister or friend, or those cool kids over there. So little Johnny goes hangs out with these guys, want a cigarette? No. A couple of days later, want a cigarette? No. A week or two later, he's getting desensitized. What the heck? And he takes his first hit. What did he just do? He broke a contract he made when he was probably in kindergarten. How does he clean that up? It's really simple. It's only a cigarette. I will never smoke weed. And he means it. Still hanging out with these cool kids. Somebody starts smoking weed and you say, hey, want some? What does he say? No. I said I would never use drugs. Dude, it's only pot. It's not a drug. It's natural. God put us there for us to smoke. Right? What's really sickening is a couple of years ago, parents would call us and say, what was it, my kid's drug test? And we go 800 milligrams THC. They went, oh my God. Now they go, that's it. So we really do got to pay attention. But as he's hanging out with his buddies, he's getting desensitized. It's only pot. It's only pot. He takes his first hit. What did he just do? Contracts are getting weak. But he did more than that. He just smoked something that made him feel different and better than anything he's ever felt before. How does he clean that up? It's only pot. I'll never what? I'll never use heroin. I'll never use hard drugs. And he means it. All those other drugs are what you call drugs of opportunity. Once you start breaking contracts, what happens next? And there's where you go. How many people are in recovery in this room or sober? Wow. Almost the whole room. They don't have. And the other thing is the way people relapse, besides stress, is the same way. They start breaking contracts again. I was addicted to heroin. I only smoked pot. And they start kidding themselves if they can do that. Brings them back to their first love. So every 19 minutes we're losing something. Isn't that crazy? But then we have success stories. And I want you guys to listen to these guys' stories, and then we'll go from there. And I'm going to start with Duncan, since he's right here. So introduce yourself, your age, and we'll go from there.
I'm Duncan. I'm 16 years old. I'm from Burbank. I have 24 days clean, sober a day. This is my third time in treatment with Action, actually, at the ranch in Santa Clarita. I started using drugs when I was about, I'd say 12, and it started like most kids now with marijuana and alcohol. It was just that for a while. And I was a normal kid, pretty brought up in a normal household. My parents were divorced, but nothing too bad. But it just started with that as fun, just like hanging out with friends and just smoking weed and drinking alcohol and just doing that. And then a friend had pills, and I started breaking those contracts because when I was, just like Carrie said, when I was young, I told myself I'd never do drugs, I'd never smoke a cigarette, never do those things. And the pills were hydrocodone, which you guys would know as Vicodin. And that was the first time I ever tried an opiate. And from instantly, I was hooked on that, instantly. But things like friends didn't have any more, like I kind of forgot about it because I wasn't too hooked yet. But mentally, it was already like right there. And time went on, and I just kept breaking those contracts, and I kept doing more drugs, just trying more things, exploring, just trying to find that one thing that fit for me. And I could never do it. Nothing ever fit because, trust me, none of them do. But I just kept trying to find that one thing that would make me feel whole, make me feel okay, make me feel better, make me feel good. Something that would work, it would last, have a lasting effect on me, and I couldn't find it. So I just kept trying things until eventually one day I tried almost every drug you can name except heroin, and I was 14 at the time. And I was with a friend, an older friend who I usually used to get pills from, opiate pills like Vicodin, Oxycontin, things like that. And he said, I don't have any pills, but I have something else. And he let me try heroin for the first time for free. That's what he's like, oh, I'll get this to you for free. That's what he said. So instantly I was like, okay, let's do it. I'd already broken enough contracts to know that, like, let's break another one. It doesn't really matter what I do now. So I did that, and the first time, instantly, I was hooked. I was hooked the first time I took that first hit. I was hooked, and it just kept progressing. I was a normal kid, even up until that point with my drug use. I still went to school. I still did my homework. I still got good grades. I didn't get in trouble. I still had everything together up until that point. And within a month of trying heroin, I hadn't gone to school that entire month. I was lying to my parents and my family and my friends every day about where I was. I was stealing as much money, anything I could get to sell or trade or get anything to get more drugs, get more heroin specifically. I was doing that every day. My life went from pretty much a normal kid, aside from the drug use, to being a junkie, being a drug fiend within a month because of that drug. And it kept going on, and it stayed like that for a few months until I overdosed on September 11th of last year. My mom found me in my room, blue, face down on my floor, non-responsive, and she called me the ER, I went to the ER. I was okay, they got me up, they used the Narcan shot, they saved my life, and I swore to myself I would never do it again. I swore to myself, like, it makes me sick, I'll never do that again. And I went to the ranch, Action Family Counseling, for the first time in September, the day after that, and things actually got okay from there. Things felt better. I made new friends. I made people I could relate to because I hadn't had that in a long time. I hadn't had anyone where I felt like I was able to connect with them, and I had that. And I was released, and I was happy. I was all set on being clean and sober, and I was clean and sober for about 6 months. I took my 6-month ship at a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, and shortly after that, I relapsed because I told myself, it's just weed. I broke that contract. I broke that contract again. I said, it's just weed. I can do that. I don't have to go back to heroin. I don't have to do that. I smoked pot probably, actually once before I tried heroin, before I did heroin again. Once. Because from there, it was off and running. I was ready to go. And I went back to heroin, and I went back hard. I didn't go back into it softly. I went back hard. Like every other drug addict does, I went back hard into it. I was immediately back again, selling everything I could sell, stealing everything I could steal, just trying to get my hands on more, just to fill that hole. And I never felt so bad in my life. Never. I'd never felt so bad. And I kept going on a run, kept doing the same thing. It kept getting worse and worse and worse until I couldn't decide whether I wanted to live anymore. I didn't have that. I didn't have strength to keep going without the drug. I couldn't live with it, and I couldn't live without it. I couldn't have either of them. And I went back to the ranch in Santa Clarita a second time in April. And when I was released from there, I was set on being sober again, being sober. And I stopped doing what I needed to do. I stopped working on my recovery. I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped working my steps. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped caring about anything, and I used again. And that time, I started with oxycodone pills I found in my friend's cabinet at their house. And from there, I said, that's going to be the only time I use anything. That's going to be the only time I use. I swear, I'm not going to go back to it. And from then, I was already trying to find ways to get money, trying to find ways to get out of the house to go pick up. And it got to the point where every second was filled with thinking about getting high or thinking about getting more drugs because I couldn't stand the way I was feeling inside. I could not stand it. I couldn't deal with it. It was either be dead or be high. There was no in between. I didn't want either. I didn't want either of them. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to keep using. I didn't know what I wanted to do. At that point, I went back to the ranch on August 1st of this year, and I had 24 days clean and sober.
Three people died just now since we've been here. And he almost was one.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Taylor. I'm just going to say it like we're in a regular meeting because I'm uncomfortable. So, surprisingly enough, we are not family.
We told her there's only going to be about 20 people here.
Yeah, I found out about this at 3 o'clock. My friend's like, oh, just a few people. I didn't read the flyer because I don't read when I don't feel like it. And I got here and we heard a lot of people. So I guess like you all know how the story goes. I put lines in the sand. I crossed the mall. I had a heart attack when I was 17 from my drug addiction. I'm a crystal meth addict. I started with heroin. You know, we have this pretty similar story. I overdosed, it didn't matter to me, I kept using drugs. I overdosed again, it didn't matter to me, I kept using drugs. And then finally one day I gave myself a heart attack and I was dead for 5 minutes. And I almost had complete brain damage. I was in a blackout for 5 days and I woke up in juvenile hall and I was so upset. I said, you know, I gotta get out of here. You gotta let me out. And the guards laughed at me and they said, you're not going anywhere. And I said, well, what did I do? And they said, well, enough to get a lot of time in here. And at that time, I was 17 and I was looking at 5 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. And I was looking at 6 years in an adult prison. And that scared me. You know, and somehow my mom, she's in recovery. She had like 10 years at the time. She convinced the judge to let me out and go to treatment. So we all know how to do drugs. I'm going to talk about what happened after I got sober. I've been sober since October 21st, 2012. I stayed sober since I was 17 years old. It was bad enough for me. And, you know, I got to do things after I got sober. Like, I went back to high school and got a diploma. And I was never really good at school, and I didn't really care about school. I never really was a functioning school addict. I just didn't go. And I spent a lot of time hopping around treatment centers, so like they let you get easy credits in treatment. So I figured if I stayed in treatment long enough, I'd get a diploma, but that didn't happen. I went back to college, and I dropped out, but I'm gonna go back again this spring. And those are all nice things, but the most important thing for me was I developed relationships with my family, something I'd never had. So my mom today is my best friend. I tell her everything. I'm so honest about everything in my life that some people tell me sometimes you're too honest. Some people say I'm honest to a fault, but for me, where it always starts is the lying. Every time I tell a lie, I'm doing something else next. So I'm the most honest person you'll ever meet because I'm just afraid of these drugs again. I have 2 alcoholic parents. My mom is sober 14 years. My dad is going to die from his alcoholism. When you get sober, life doesn't get easy and it doesn't get pretty and things are hard. Like life happens. It's never going to be easy. So what you have to do is find out the tools. Okay, so like I have a spiritual malady. What do? I know that feeling of, oh my God, I just want to get high, and that's the only thing I can think about. So what treats that? What do I do to stop that? You have to schedule yourself. You have to work a 12-step program, in my opinion. Some people don't agree with that. If you don't, more power to you, figure it out. But I need a 12-step program. I need people to tell me exactly how to live my life. I need to be taught how to make a bed. How do I do taxes? What is all of this life stuff? How do I pay bills? What is direct deposit? I had to learn all of those things. And the best thing I ever did for my life and my family was get sober. And I didn't do it for my family, but in the end, that's the most important thing in the world to me, like Carrie was talking about, because the family is the only thing that we have in this world. And the fact of my life is, my dad's gonna die. He drank himself to death, and I get to watch it. That's never gonna be okay, but I can walk through that sober. My mom stayed sober. She had another divorce this year. That's sad to me. It brings me back to my childhood when my parents split up. But we get through it sober. Horrible shit happens all the time. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I had 2 friends commit suicide in the last 9 months. Young guys, under the age of 25. But we get to walk through those things sober. And if you just figure out how to put one foot in front of the other, you can do anything that life has in front of you.
I'm Anthony. I'm 26 years old and I am a marijuana addict. Hey. So my story starts pretty similar to theirs. Well, first, I guess a lot of people that common image of a drug addict is coming from, a broken home, absent parents, all that. That wasn't me. I had a good family, successful parents who loved me, always on my butt about everything, literally everything. None of this was their fault on me. But basically, I didn't do anything through high school, but I guess deep down, I always knew that I wanted to try drugs for some reason or another. I don't advise that because of how I ended up. But basically, I go to college, and a few weeks into my freshman year, I'm in a dorm. I walk in, and my roommate is there with his frat buddy, and they're all huddled around the window doing something. And I walk in, and they get all startled and trying to hide something, and what's going on, And my roommate's buddy was like, "Oh, let's just tell him, And he's like, "All right." And they're like, "Oh, we're smoking weed. Do you want to try some? I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? Just try it once. And did it that one time, and off and running, basically. I mean, I wasn't buying it right away, but any opportunity I got to smoke, and it was frequent, I was jumping on board. No matter if I liked you or not, if you offered me a chance to smoke, I was there. Fast forward 3 years, I'm in college. I failed a couple of classes, so I got to go into my 5th year, and so I transferred back here. I was going to school in Texas, so I transferred back here and I go to CSUN. Really pissed me off. Nothing slowed down there. A couple years later, by that time, I'd probably spent, safe estimate, 45, 50 grand on weed alone. Lots of it. Basically, once I came back, my parents saw how bad it really was. Kicked me out of the house. Basically gave me the option, either stop smoking weed or get out of our house. And I chose to get out of the house. At the time, it sounds ridiculous, but I would rather live in my car and have my drugs than I would live with a loving family with a nice house and a roof over my head and move on with my life. So I did that for a few months, had enough, went back home, picked up right where I left off. At the time, I just convinced my parents that I was sick and tired of it, but I wasn't. I just was sick and tired of not really having a shower every day, But basically what ended up happening is I wasn't getting any closer to graduating. I was moving along in school, but slow. All my friends were in their careers and doing things and going on vacations together, and I'm just sitting there, I can't do that, I got a final. And it's like, Anthony, come on, you've been in school for 6 years now. What's going on? So eventually, I just kind of kicked it into gear. My parents approached me about going to a rehab, and at first I wasn't so gung-ho about it, but I knew I needed it. So I went to Action, outpatient. Actually, I went to Action, started there a week before my finals for my last semester. Got through those though, and now I have the degree. And to be honest, I don't think I wouldn't have that if I didn't get sober. So now, and a lot of things, amazing things have come along with that. I have a job now. I do engineering for an aerospace company. Which, along with that, if you want to have any sort of job in aerospace, you can't do anything. Whether weed is legal or not, you cannot do it, or else you cannot work in aerospace ever again if you fail a drug test. So that was very thankful that I was able to, get clean, pass that drug test, to get into the job. And I like what I do. I really enjoy it. I'm out of my parents' house finally. Got an apartment a few months ago. Things are going really great, and they wouldn't be if I was, still running amok, living in my car, doing weed. And I think it's a very common misconception. A lot of people don't think, they think if you're, living in your car, then you have a needle sticking out of your arm, and it's not always true. Any substance can take over your life, and a lot of people don't think weed's a drug and that it can do that, but it very much so did that to me, and that's just what I want to share with you guys. Thank you.
Make sure you're filling out those cards, and the city staff will be picking them up. Huh? Oh yeah, for questions, exactly. And Nicole, do me a favor. Come here. I want to do something while you're collecting the cards. Okay, guys, listen. Again, every 19 minutes somebody dies, which means some kid loses a parent, or some parent loses a kid. Now, I'm just going to spend a minute. Nicole, I've known her for a long time. I'm sorry. I've known her for a lot of years. I've known her family. She has an aunt named Nicole. But she also went through our program and got sober. And this is specifically to you and everybody else. There is no drug worth more than this. At the end of the day, family is everything, right? There is no drug. And I'll tell you what, the 19 minutes somebody dies, what about rape? Most of the people that get raped is because somebody either drank or used drugs. How about child abuse? How about domestic violence? How about murder? You know what I'm going to say is, I was talking to somebody earlier that's in this room and they said I really did some terrible things. I'm really a terrible person. I don't believe that any of you are terrible people. I believe that a lot of good people make a lot of bad choices once they start using drugs. Alcohol and drugs make good people do bad things and turn good things into nightmares. So how do I say this appropriately? The hell with alcohol and drugs, not you. If you want to learn how to forgive yourself, stop doing the things that make you feel bad. Pretty simple. So we have questions? Marijuana is legal, and my son thinks it's no big depression, but he smokes it all the time. What can I do?
Sure.
Okay, so I had that thought as well and tried to play that game. It makes it worse, depression. I have depression, and marijuana is a depressant, so you're just making it worse. There are other ways to deal with depression. They have medication for it. You can talk to a therapist about it. You can talk to your parents about it. You can talk to your friends. Marijuana just makes it worse. So I really hope that you don't actually continue on trying to treat your depression that way.
Yeah, he's right. Marijuana makes depression worse, and I have proof of that because when you're actually a depressed person, for example, if you take Prozac and you smoke weed, you have psychotic breaks.
Yeah, I'm going to spend just about a second on that. Marijuana is a lot different than it used to be. It used to be 0.3 milligrams THC. In most hits you take off a bomb, it's 23 milligrams. And edibles up to 80 and 90%. We're getting people, I run Henry Bale's behavioral health unit. We're getting people that are coming in there psychotic. Completely psychotic. And the only thing showing up in their drug test is THC, folks. We're getting people in the ERs that are there because they're psychotic. And the only thing showing up in their drug test is THC. Figure it out. How many people die per year that due to marijuana usage? I don't know that they ever did a survey, but I'll tell you what, if you're smoking marijuana, long-term effects, pretty bad. I could talk cancer and I can go on for days. I'm not going to debate that with anybody. But I also will say, adolescents, 16 years old, his brain's not even developed yet. Do you know where THC stores? In your fatty cells. So when I'm dealing with adolescents, and they come into my program, it's pretty simple. I can almost tell you to the month they started 2 years ago. Why? They stopped, they lost motivation. They dropped out of sports, dance was boring, karate, forget it, first period stinks. Then they lose their short-term memory. Why didn't you do your homework? I forgot. Why didn't you turn it in? I forgot. I mean, I can go on 4 days. If you want to really talk THC, see me after. Can weed be smoked in an e-cigarette? In your vape? Marijuana, guys?
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is pretty simple. I'm going to spend about a half a second on vaping. I'm not really excited about it. It's kind of a deal, but actually it was brought around. It was brought for people to stop smoking, right? But we have more kids now that are vaping that probably would never have smoked. And the studies haven't quite came out yet for long-term effects. It scares me to think about what they're going to really be. What can we do when they legalize marijuana? How can we keep it away from our children? That's a really rough question, isn't it? See, here's my thinking about that. Is why would a parent allow a 14-year-old kid to get away with anything like that? I'm just asking you guys a question. I own drug rehabs. I run psych hospitals. I've been doing this for going on 30 years. It's a long time, right? And when parents come to me, they have a 14-year-old kid, and that kid is strung out on pot, whatever it is, my first question is, how the heck did that happen? The first time it happens, you need to jump on that and jump on it hard. Or I have a parent the other day said, my kid recreationally uses drugs. And I said, what does that mean? He shoots heroin and plays soccer? Explain recreational usage to me. Or, recreationally using, he's just experimenting. How long? 2 years. Okay, well, let's put it to you this way. I'm going to spend another second on marijuana. Not every kid or person that smokes a joint is going to turn into a heroin addict, right? We know that. But I can tell you, almost every heroin addict that I've ever dealt with started with marijuana. So it's just one of those kind of things. How old do you have to be to drink alcohol? Why would you let your kids smoke pot? Younger than that. You're the parents. You're the answer. This is for you guys. What are your outlets now that you are not doing drugs? What success have you had now that you don't use drugs?
Okay, that's a good question. What do I do with my time? I go to the gym every single day. I meal prep because I had to teach myself how to lose weight without meth. Okay? So that's hard, and that's how I spend my time. On the weekends, we go grocery shopping, and we meal prep food every Sunday. During the week, I have a job, and I go to work, and then I watch Netflix and sleep.
I also go to the gym. That helps a lot. I know a lot of people that work out to help it relieve stress. I mean, I've heard somewhere, and I buy into it, but the number one reason people who use drugs is stress, or use drugs, abuse drugs. Maybe the first time you use it's curiosity or boredom, but if you start abusing them, that's stress. I also have a job that I go to every day. Also, things like finding sober friends, or if they're not sober, friends that understand your sobriety and are good enough friends to where they're not going to do it around you. That helps. Along with doing things like this helps me. Getting back, that helps a lot too.
For me, I've been sober for various short amounts of time, 6 months, a couple months here and there, but I found the thing that helps the most for me is just keeping yourself busy. Like they said, going to the gym. I haven't gone to the gym lately at all, so I need to work on that. But for me, playing guitar, reading, writing, just practicing with creativity, just trying to do something that I enjoy that like keeps my mind off.
What's the difference between vaping and smoking? You guys want to answer that? Quick answer.
It's the same thing, one just doesn't smell.
Sorry, guys. You mentioned peers or individuals that were a factor in your trying drugs. Were there any positive individuals in your life that helped you decide not to use drugs?
Well, Carrie was one for me when I went to Action twice when I was 13 and 14. But yeah, there's always those friends that try to keep you from doing drugs. You just, if you really want to do drugs, ignore them and stop being friends with them. But most of the time it's just your family.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends who I definitely wouldn't call them addicts, but they will smoke once a month or so, and they don't see a problem with it, even though they know I have a problem with it. But because they're great friends, they don't pressure me into it. They understand it, so they help just like letting some of them know. Along with that, I have Action IOP to thank. They were a really big support system, all the people in it, the counselors, like Sharon, who's here tonight. Woo woo. She gets on you pretty hard. So.
Where is she?
She's right over there. So she raised her hand.
Give her a hand.
Yeah, Sharon. I'm sure she liked that.
I'm sure she liked.
Yeah, there were always those people who tried to get you away from drugs or tried to have you not do that, but like she said, I second what she said, you pretty much just ignore them because why would you listen to someone else? It's something you want to do. But people who helped me are actually two of them are sitting over there. I don't actually see them right now, but they work for the Action IOP in Simi Valley. They've helped me probably more than anyone stay clean and stay sober.
And I do want to say that getting clean and sober is easy. You just got to change everything. Your friends, your playgrounds, your toys, your thinking, everything. And it's easy. It's only as difficult as you make it. How do you combat drug and alcohol abuse in society that glorifies said substances? Alcohol is advertised on every billboard and more than it's blah, 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 blah. And now marijuana is on billboards too. So how do you combat that? I think the answer is really pretty simple. I don't believe it's up to society, sorry. I believe it's up to us. Now look how fortunate we are. For a second, I want to take a second to thank the city for what they do here in Santa Clarita to combat drugs. I don't know any other city that does that. And also a special thanks to the Sheriff's Department and the school district. They're awesome. I always hear people saying, hey, there's a lot of drugs in Santa Clarita. There's no more drugs here than any other city. The reason you hear it more is because we do more about it here in Santa Clarita. And that's awesome. But if you want to combat drugs and alcohol, it starts in your home. I don't care what's on the billboard, it starts in your home. You start talking to the kids when they're that age. They're never too early to learn about it. When you're watching TV and there's a bad situation that has to do with drugs or any of that kind of stuff, that's a teaching moment. So you, parents, are the ones that can make a difference in drug abuse and alcohol abuse in this country. It starts in your home, in our homes.
Okay, we have one question here that seems like it's simple. Why can't schools control the drugs in their schools? Simple question, very complex issue that's not going to have any type of easy answer to it. But bottom line is, our schools are microcosms of society. One of our high schools alone has 3,000 students in it. If you look at that 3,000 students and the number of adults that are in that school to supervise, you're looking at less than 5% adults per kids ratio. And it all goes back to starting at the home. We look for your help. Make sure that you know your children, that you don't have drugs that are prescription, that are in your medicine cabinets unlocked. You know what's in your kid's backpack when they leave. You know where your kids are getting money at, that they can actually purchase things. It's one of those that schools can look at it two ways. We need to become very much a punitive-oriented culture, where we search every single kid when they walk through the door, which I can't imagine doing that. And we're talking 3,000 students walking on a campus, searching every single person's backpack, their hat, their clothes, their shoes, their socks, the whole bit, anywhere that they can hide anything at before we let them go into their classroom, which takes away from instructional time. And obviously we're penalizing a huge portion of kids who aren't using drugs for the very few percentage-wise that are using drugs. And so the complexity of the issue is way, way, way too much for us to have a major discussion on here tonight. But I would tell you this, the school district is always, always available to hear suggestions and ideas from parents and to look at different ways to implement different programs. We work really actively with CARI, with other substance abuse agencies. We work with the city, we work with law enforcement, and we're always looking for new creative ideas to help our students and our families. So if you have anything like that, please reach out. But otherwise, it's just a really complex issue. So thank you.
We have a lot of people that are in rehabs here tonight. This is specifically to you. When you come to rehab, you leave with a set of contracts. Remember those contracts we talked about earlier? The reason why most people end up back in our rehabs is because they break their contracts again. They start hanging out with people that they shouldn't. They figure they can just smoke pot and they don't shoot heroin. Once you start breaking the contracts, you end up in big trouble. Get those contracts hardwired. You're worth it. You're worth a whole lot more than this. And parents, spend time with your kids. It starts when they're young. Got it? Cool? Yeah? And she put this thing on. Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Come on. Thank you very much for coming. Any other quick questions? If not, I'll just shut. Yes, sir. You have to speak up a little loud.
Why hasn't anybody mentioned the 12-step program?
I did.
They have.
Sharing. Working the steps, I did talk about that. I said I worked steps to stay sober.
How many people are in 12-step programs in this room? Give them a hand. Okay. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Be safe.